if I stayed in the relationship, I would be dead and I would not be able to look after my daughter. And that's what got me out of it. And you may be thinking, what? Why was she still in it? Why was she still in it, getting that death threat in 2004 after what happened in 2002? And I don't know. Hi and welcome to this vlog for the Survivor Diaries. The purpose of the vlogs, again, is to be more behind the scenes of the episodes that we're producing for the Survivor Diaries channel. The Survivor Diaries are free videos. It's intended as a free resource to assist anybody who is experiencing the child arrangements programme in private law proceedings in England and Wales, especially if they do not have a solicitor and especially if there has been domestic abuse as a feature in the adult's relationship. Okay, so my last vlog it was just the exhaustion of having been to court, seeing my ex-abuser, it was traumatic. It was traumatic just being there. I could spend a long time discussing it, which of course I wouldn't, being family proceedings. And going on from that, there is another set of proceedings, and I feel a bit weird about this one, and I'm expecting that probably a lot of people who are in a domestic abuse situation can probably relate to this. It's very difficult for me to explain to people that haven't done it. I feel as though with the previous application, which was about child arrangements, and that was dismissed, that's not continuing. That was his application, and then it was the stress and the distress of having to say again and again, or it didn't happen, or this sort of thing. And more recently, off the back of that, I'm going to say why I've done this. I have made an application for a non-molestation order. And a non-molestation order, I have just done an episode about non-molestation orders, just in the general picture of like the different kinds of applications and procedures that you'll see in family law proceedings in England and Wales. The non-molestation order itself, because I'm making the application, there's a part of me that feels that, why am I doing it? If I'm so traumatised by having to go to court and seeing him, why am I making this application? It's been 5 years, save for these recent court experiences, it's been 5 years since I've seen him. And the non-molestation order is made or not made on the basis of perceived fear of violence and usually recent violence. In my case though, as I've made clear throughout these videos, I became extremely ill in November 2018. The video project has come out of this as part of my healing. That might sound a bit naff, but it is there. It's making me stronger. I feel safer putting all of this down. I feel that I can help people who are struggling through the child arrangements process, because even though I've been a solicitor for only 3 years, I've been struggling through the child arrangements process for 16 years, and prior to that I was in my domestic abuse relationship for 3-4 years. So 20 years this has been going on. 20 years of a co-parenting relationship. And that's going to tie into what I'm going to say about why I feel I need this order. Non-molestation order is something that once it's been set down by the court, whether it's must not use extreme violence or not use violence, or whether it must not come within a certain distance, the non-molestation order then, if it is broken, if it is breached, it's an automatic criminal offence, whatever the order may have set out. So it's quite a powerful order, and it's a very protective order in my mind. It's very easy to get a non-molestation order if you are considering doing so. If there has been violence or threats of violence, the application can be made on form FL 401. We are going to have an episode covering how to make that application, what will happen through the hearings, that will be coming shortly. And the application to make is free, and you can possibly go and see the judge without the abusive person there in what's called an ex parte hearing, where they've only heard one party. The judge would make, most likely, the non-molestation order if there is a real fear of violence And then it's on an ex parte basis, so the other person hasn't heard yet. The order stands and it's served on the police, served on the person who's subject of the order, and then the protection is immediate from service. The parties are then asked to return to the court for what's called a return hearing. So let's just say I'm somewhere around there, and that means that in the last week I've had his response to my application. And I have to say, if I'm completely honest, that is where I went the most meltdowny, nearly as much as November. Because once again, he is saying that this attack in 2002 never happened, and he's put this in his statement for the Non-Molestation Order. So once again, he's denying that it happened. And I'm hoping that you can see that this is a kind of abuse in itself. It's also an unquantifiable risk. The police in 2002 did not act as they correctly should have done. And it's only since having seen police notes saying, as per NCRs, this should have been crimed, that I've understood the full significance of that. And it is significant. What have I got now to tell Clare's Law? What have I got to tell the courts about any potential danger to other people, and of course including our own daughter? And this is what makes me anxious, and this is what makes me ill. There are two things then which have made me feel that I need to get the order. When I have this little conversation with myself in my head about why am I doing this and why am I putting myself through this further application, I eventually come to the conclusion of, well, okay, what if I stopped it, or what if I hadn't made it? And then I realise that I don't feel protected. I'm not protected. And I want to explain that this is for two reasons. One, in 2002, I went away in an ambulance after such severe violence that a police officer asked me how long I'd been unconscious for. I had stitches in my head. That was an incident in 2002. One wrong kick, one wrong punch, and I would not be making these videos. That's very clear, and it's a life-changing event for me. It has made me feel vulnerable in a way that I never felt before that event. I'd never been beaten up before, lying in a fetal position on the floor, not knowing if it was going to stop. And that's something that happened. So talking about it now as a traumatic event, as something that became post-traumatic stress in November when it was first raised as something and never happened, the re-traumatisation now of him saying again, no, it never happened. So going forwards, this is now something that we're going to have to provide evidence for. And the court will look at it, and it will look at it on the balance of probabilities, and again, completely secure in my understanding of the law and how it will apply and how the court should be able to deal with the evidence. Because remember, they're looking at things on the balance of probabilities. Is it more likely than not that these things happened? So that's one reason. One reason is the actual physical assault itself. And the denial of the abuse with that means that it's not something, it would be a completely different situation, wouldn't it? If he was saying, you know what, I did that and that's terrible. I did that and I need to change my behaviour so that nothing like that ever happens again. We'd be dealing with a completely different situation, wouldn't we? And we're not. That's one reason for the fear, because of the actual assault itself. I mean, there's other things as well. There was like a very real threat to kill in my situation. So parents who don't breathe don't bring up children, he repeated twice to me. And this was very, very shortly before I left with my police escort. And those words made me realise that if I stayed in the relationship, I would be dead and I would not be able to look after my daughter. And that's what got me out of it. And you may be thinking, what? Why was she still in it? Why was she still in it, getting that death threat in 2004 after what happened in 2002? And I don't know. I can give some insight, and I will do in a separate episode on the why doesn't she leave. What I will say about the abusive relationship is that it's not the same as a stranger in the park walking across and punching me in the face. There's no emotional relationship there. What it is in a domestic abuse situation is the person that you're supposed to be close with, the person that you're supposed to be safe with. And it's almost, to me, it's almost an aggravated injury, an aggravated assault, because of this relationship, this trust relationship that should be there in this thing. And when people say to me, why doesn't he leave? Why doesn't she leave? I wouldn't stay in a relationship if he was doing that. And what they think, and this is their mistake, they think I wouldn't be in a relationship with that person. What they should think is how they would feel if the person that they're in a happy relationship with, that's all equal and supportive, if suddenly that became unequal and supportive. And this is a person that's supposed to love you, and suddenly you're not pleasing them as much, and you start to think it's you, etc., etc. So that's more for the episode on the question of why doesn't she leave. So we will be doing that as a subsequent episode. Incidentally, just while I'm on the subject of this, I have seen comments, and I am picking up on things. For example, I have seen comments on the Survivor Diaries channels themselves asking for a video about how to prepare a witness statement. That's with all the evidence. I have seen that. I am hearing these requests, and if you do have things that you want me to cover, please do comment on the YouTube videos, find the Survivor Diaries on Facebook, or email us on the email address that Paul will flash up hopefully anytime around now. Okay, so I'm talking about my fear and why I want this non-molestation order to protect me now. Obviously there's the flashback, the injury, recent psychological injury, and then there's another aspect. So I'm going to refer here to Pat Craven again and her book Living with the Dominator. In her book, one of the most brilliant parts of her understanding is a thing called the rules of the game. And the rules of the game, I'm hoping that Paul can flash up, as he does in half the screen, the rules of the game show a circular pattern that can lead to violence and abuse. But the important thing to realise here is that it is not real anger. It is always manufactured anger. And I'm going to have to check with Paul and possibly send a quick note to Pat Craven to ask if it's okay to do this. But it would be excellent if we could just clip to a part of how a man, it's a cartoon drawing, is winding himself up and talking himself through it. How could she do this? Who the fuck does she think she is? This sort of thing. Manufactured anger when the rules are not being followed. And the brilliant thing about the rules of the game is that the rules are set by the abusive personality. You do not know what the rules are. So one day it may be that it's okay to have the TV on and have tea in front of the TV and everybody's relaxed and happy. And then on the second day it may be that we should all be around the table and being a proper family, this is disgusting. The thing is, the rules change all the time, and the person subject to the abuse does not know what they are one day to the next. When the abusive personality starts to realise that his rules are not working, remember the objective here is to control women. This is the objective of the dominator in Pat Craven's book. If he feels that he is losing his control, he then manufactures anger and reasons. How dare she do this to me? How does she think she's going to get away with it? What red-blooded male would take this? This sort of thing's winding up. She's going to get it when she gets in. And then that's what escalates to the violence. It isn't a loss of temper, an emotional flash of like rage, red mist. Okay, it's very manufactured anger in domestic abuse. And that is something that I completely agree with Pat Craven on. And I'm hoping that we will get into that in a lot more detail in an episode that we're going to do, which is about physical control and physical violence. In Pat Craven then, she's describing this circular pattern where the rules of the game have been established. And so what I want to do here is show you how we've got, as co-parents, these rules going on. So the rules back in 2013 may have been, unless you stop the CSA, I'm going to stop seeing our daughter, right? The CSA may be a very small amount, he may not have paid for a long time, but you can see the rule is there. It's not about, because it was a very insignificant amount, it's not about the amount at all, it's about whether or not I am worthy of having it, okay? So if I don't call off the CSA, he is going to stop his own contact with our daughter. There's something here that I hope parents who are experiencing domestic abuse will see straight away, which is that for some reason, the abusive personality is not seeing the children in the same way as you are. And so they are willing to use the children as pawns, and they will use the children, manipulate the children to continue the effect of controlling the object of their abuse. Sorry, the subject of their abuse. Is that the right way around? The person that they are abusing. In this case that I'm describing, I did not do as I was told. I did not call off the CSA. The contact stopped. I maintained indirect contact for the benefit of our daughter. And so she was having calls every day and being told that Daddy had no money, Daddy was getting poorly because he was not seeing her, he had no money to feed himself, he had no money to feed the puppy that he'd just bought, etc., etc. The aim there was to make her miss him, miss the puppy, be so upset not seeing him that she would then put pressure on me to agree to call off the CSA for this piddling little amount that he wasn't paying. And you may be saying, well, if it's a piddling little amount, why not just stop it? And I will just say back, single mother, career change of 8 years, right? Every penny counts in my world. So this didn't happen. We went back to court, trying to re-establish the rules of the game. 2013, he took me back to court. Very good judge. Findings made on domestic abuse, continuing through contact arrangements, an order for indirect contact only until he'd accessed a domestic abuse perpetrator program. Now, what he could have done in this indirect contact is start to acknowledge things that have happened with his daughter. And working with the program and what they do, there could have been some insights into his behaviour and how, for example, stopping his own contact could have been devastating and very upsetting to a young daughter, which of course it was. However, what he could also do is have this plan, this rule, that he's going to write, and he's going to write emotive letters, which I coined the phrase memories and milestones, because the emotive letters would be sent around Halloween and bonfire night, and they would say things like, Halloween is coming up soon, and have you picked a fancy dress outfit, and do you remember when we went trick-and-treating, and Christmas, and do you remember when we did this at Christmas? And so, in that way, they are tugging at the child's heartstrings, wanting the child to miss them. Milestones, again, it's showing how much time has passed. And, oh, the puppy misses you so much and he's going to have such a big cuddle for you when you come back. So, memories and milestones, things that are designed to cause emotional upset to the children. And that is so that puts pressure on me to restart the contact. And presumably the ultimate end game is that bringing up a teenager, which is not without its odd difficulty here or there, at some point the hope was probably that our teenage daughter would turn around and say, F you, I'm off to see my dad. That has not happened. And that is what is frightening me more than anything, because the rules of his game included that somewhere towards the end of his teens, after he'd sat around, writing emotive letters, doing a bit of fishing, making a career out of avoiding any kind of CSA liability, that what he would do is, when she's old enough, just sweep in there and explain all about her mother, what a horrible person she is, etc., etc. And I know in the previous episode we flashed up the text message that's way back from 2011, that was actually asking me to write to the court and tell them that I'd changed my mind. Otherwise, he would be letting our daughter know what a lying, cheating whore her mother was, I think it was. I'll ask Paul to flash that up again. So you can see his ultimate aim in that text as well was to destroy the mother's relationship with the child. And that is a feature of the domestic abuse relationship that is being missed by the courts and missed by the Kafkas, because that is not how the abusive father presents, is it? The abusive father is obviously persuasive, charming, manipulative, because a lot of the women that I speak to, they're not idiots, right? They didn't go out on a first date, get punched in the face and think, geez, he's a keeper. So it was initially everything that they could want, right? This is too good to be true levels. Okay, the perfect relationship. And the frightening thing is that it is exactly the same as the friend. The friend would be looking out for you at the end of a party and hoping that you got home safely and may even pick you up. But then the jailer would also hope that they could come and pick you up, but only so that they could check that you were there on time, that you were where you said you were going to be. They might turn up early so that you have to leave early, and that is all about control. And that can make it confusing, I appreciate. So I'm digressing. I'm coming back to the things that are making me so afraid that if I do not go for a non-molestation order and for the protection of a non-molestation order, the anxiety is going to make me ill. And so one, I'm pointing out this abuse is being denied. It's been overlooked by the police, and that is scaring the life out of me. I am going to have to ask the police to look at that again in the way of a formal complaint because they didn't deal with it properly. And therefore there is a good chance that he could manufacture this anger and become really, really angry about it and just turn up. In addition to that, that fits with my view that co-parenting relationships, they will last, 16 years? And the co-parenting relationship is subject to domestic abuse, right? Because it's the only way that the abuse can continue through the child arrangements. It's the only contact that the abusive parent has with the non-abusive parent. So I hope I'm getting that across in this vlog, which is the behind the scenes stuff. I am more anxious than I was again. And there is a part of me that, having done the return hearing and knowing that he's objecting and that I'm going to put my evidence in, I do have a slight sense of relief in that there is going to be findings made. There are going to be findings made based on that evidence specifically, rather than the general findings when it was just included in a bundle that allowed the court to make a general finding of domestic abuse previously in 2014. Again, as always, I hope that this has been helpful and informative in understanding the incredible stress that the family proceedings are bringing. Even a protective order, such as a non-molestation order application, is making me ill with stress. We're back to making me ill with stress. I'm on amended duties again. It should be temporary until we get to the final hearing, then another little hurdle to get through, and hopefully we can then just get on with normality, or whatever remains of normality as far as me and my daughter are concerned. Okay, so that was a vlog for the Survivor Diaries. Thank you as always for your support and continued watching of the episodes and the vlogs, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next episode. Thank you for watching, and bye.